Hey everyone, this is going to be a quick review of the Sword Yamato Replica. So this is the most accurate replica that I have seen so far. The length and everything on this was specified by me. This sword normally comes with a 28-inch blade and a 10.5-inch scout. The sword comes with a certificate, which I think is also a nice touch, so I'm just going to take the envelope and put it here. On the certificate is information on the sword, such as its length, the thickness of the blade construction, the blade length, the weight, and the material it's made of, as well as the finish date. All this here is pretty much metric though. So if you don't know the metric system, you're going to have to convert it to standard measuring. The weight on this sword is 3.8 pounds. The overall length is 129 centimeters. The length on this sword is 50.78 inches. The blade thickness is 7.1 millimeters. The blade length is 85 centimeters, which is 33.5 inches. And the finish date is August of 2016. The blade material is 1095 carbon steel. And the blade construction is Maru. And here's what the certificate looks like. The sword also comes with one of these sword bags, which does fit the sword. I've gotten swords before where the sword bags don't fit the swords because of the length, but this one does. The balance on the sword is really good, as you can see. It would be even better if the balance was back a little bit more, but this isn't too tip heavy or anything. Other changes I had them make was I had them add a bohie into the sword, because typically it does not come with a bohie. However, I wanted it to have a bohie so that it would be more accurate to the game. I also had them change the position of the kurigata to be up higher, because typically it's lower. So this way it's easier for me to use, and this is the correct width anyways. I had them change the sagyo. Normally it comes with a white sagyo, but this is a more gold colored one. I also had them change the manuki, which I know are hard to see, but I changed them to a color that matches the fittings better. I had them change them to a color that matches the fittings better, because otherwise they're a very shiny gold color. And I also had them flip the kashira around so that it is right side up. With the bohie in the sword, it whistles very easily. This sword doesn't come absolutely razor sharp, but it's not so dull that it inhibits cutting. It could be sharper, but as I said, it's not too bad. The sagyo comes just a little bit short of 9 feet long, which I think is good because then you can shorten it to whatever length you need. And with this kind of sagyo, all you have to do is snip the ends, burn the ends, and then you don't have to worry about it fraying. The skamaki is very tight when you get it. As you can see, the ito is white, just like in the game, which if you leave unlacquered or anything, it's going to darken just as you see. To me, it doesn't bother me too much. This is cotton, I believe. There is no hole right here in the kashira. Typically, there would be a hole on each side. Then when the skamaki is done, the ito passes through, and that's what holds down the kashira. However, because the game does not have it, neither does this one. But what they did to make sure it doesn't come off is, as you can see, there are nails. So that holds the kashira on. So this is not going to come off easily unless you pull the nails out. It has 2 makugi pins. So that's another thing I always like. I always prefer 2 makugi pins. I do not like to have only one in the sword. I don't think it's that good an idea to have only one. The saya fit is really good as you get it. I haven't had to do any loosening or tightening to this really, so it's good pretty much right out of the box. As you can see with the koiguchi, there's plenty of space for the nukatsuke. I had to file that like that because it was doing a little ting as I was doing the nukatsuke, but very easy to fix. Just take the koiguchi off, file that opening bigger, and you're good to go. I gave plenty of room for that, so now this sword will not do that tinging noise. The kojiri is a good shape. It doesn't get in the way for any techniques, it's still very easy to get the sword in the obi. It's still very easy to do strikes like this if need be. So that's another good thing, is that does not get in the way. The kurigata, however, has a little problem. Now keep in mind, when you get a replica sword, there will be some problems, especially when it's a replica from a video game. Because, in video games, they don't have to, obey what works in the real world. This kurigata can slide right into the obi. So I will show you right here. As you can see, it slides right in there. Depending on your style though, that may not be a big deal. One thing you can do is, depending on your style, some styles will tie the sword more like this. If you're using the sword for just cutting, then that's not going to be an issue at all. For me, honestly, it's not that big a deal. If it goes down a little bit, I just pull it up. If the sword was something that you were drawing and then dealing with a number of enemies, then this could be a problem. However, for a kata or for putting the saya on your side and doing some cutting, it's not going to be a problem. One other thing to note about the kurigata is that mine worked its way loose a little bit. Not so much that it's sliding up and down a lot, but it went down a little. And you can hear that. That's the kurigata moving slightly. It's not so bad though that that I'm not going to be using this sword after the review. I will still be using this sword. That doesn't bother me that much. The finish on the fittings is really good. This seems to be brass, and it's pretty much just plain brass. So that's a good thing. Being that it's brass, they may tarnish on you a little bit, but it's not going to be something that the black wears off, because these obviously don't have black on them. The nakago is about 1.5 inches shorter than the ska, which is good on a ska like this. You do not want a nakago that is too short. As good as the balance is on this sword, if this was a little bit longer, the balance would be even better. If the nakago went down to maybe 1/2 inch from the end of the ska, then it would be even better. With the way that the kashira is put on this, really you could have the nakago go pretty much the entire length of the ska. It would be really strong and it would give really good balance. The ska has a full wrapper race skin, just like I requested. So that's something that you can get, is a full wrapper race skin, which is a feature I really like. The full wrap of race skin gives more traction for the ito, so that's a good thing. Plus it adds more strength to the ska. The tang has a serial number on it, which is cool. Also says Ryan Sword right there. And it even has a maker's signature on it. Although it's hard to see, there's a signature right there and on this side. The Mikugi Ana have these slight burrs, although it's not a huge deal at all. You can fix that, so it's not a big problem. With the way that the burrs are, you can pretty much tell that the way this was done was the skull was put on and the holes were drilled through. So it's not tapering holes, but that's not a huge problem really, because the Mikugi fit is actually very good. The tang is really pointy, as you can see, so you're going to have to be careful both assembling and disassembling. But one thing is, if this were to have been flat or maybe slightly round shaped, but still this length, then it would add more weight to the side and once again help with balance. But it's not a huge deal at all. The ska has a very good fit. There's still a little bit of room right there. And when I take and tap on the bottom, it goes in just as it should. The Mikugi go in part way, but you can't press them all the way in with your fingers. So you actually do have to take a Mikugi Nuki, the little Mikugi hammer, and tap them in, which is just what you want. Speaking of Mikugi, the sword comes with 4 spare Mikugi. So if your Mikugi do work their way loose, you have plenty of spares to last you for a while. The price of this sword is $250, and the shipping for me cost $43, which may depend on where you are. For me, this was going from China to Indiana, so total the cost then is less than $300. In this size, the sword will cost you $285, not including shipping. With shipping, it will cost $328 if shipping is $43 to where you live. All in all, I think it's a very nice sword, and I do recommend this sword, especially if you're looking for an accurate replica. So far, as I said, this is the most accurate replica I have seen. It's a good sword for the price. The pros far outweigh the cons of this sword. And I'm very happy with this sword, and you will see me using this sword in the future. So, thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful and informative. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And I'll see you in the next video. See ya!